What's the word, beautiful people? And welcome back to Really Honestly Truly, your new favorite podcast. I'm your host, Marika of Marika's Catalog. And we are here live at the Podcast Summit here in Miami, Florida with David Chance and Dottie Higgins. And I'm just excited to be here. And I have this lovely lady sitting in front of me. And I want you to just introduce yourself to my audience.
Absolutely. Yes, so my name is Altheresa Clark. I am a licensed grief and trauma therapist. I am also from Miami, Florida, and I have a mental health group practice here in South Florida where we serve BIPOC minority clients with an array of mental health issues. And I am also a speaker and an author as well. And I'm super excited. Thank you for inviting me, Ree, to your podcast.
Problem. Thank you for being here. Okay, so I'm a little anxious and nervous, so I'm gonna try to make this as a conversation.
Yes.
So I met Altheresa yesterday. I was starving, trying to find somewhere to sit and eat my food, and her seat was the first seat available. But I just think it was divine alignment because after talking to her and learning more about what she does, I'm like, oh, this would be a great interview for my community, for my audience, and what we do here at Marcus Catalog. And so, one of the reasons why I invited you is you're a grief therapist. And so, talk a little bit about that. Like, what exactly do you do as a grief therapist?
So yes, a lot of people in the Black and Brown communities experience grief and trauma, and sometimes it looks different than our counterparts. And so one of the reasons why I wanted to specialize in that is because my family, for example, we had experienced an immense amount of loss, but we never talked about it. It was kind of like the funeral, we grieve, we suck it up, and we keep moving. And so I realized that in the Black community, it's not always talked about. And because we were conditioned, like we just have to keep moving, we just have to keep going, especially as Black people. And so, which is one of the main reasons why I want to specialize with that and add trauma, because grief and trauma go hand in hand together. And our lived experiences as Black people, how we show up in the world, doesn't always look the same as other people. And so for me, grief and trauma goes hand in hand, but it is something that a lot of people don't like talking about. Death and dying, it's taboo. Who wants to talk about it? And it's sad.
So, you mentioned grief and trauma. What's the difference between grief and trauma?
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about the difference between the two?
Sure. So grief ideally is when you lose something. It's a loss. A lot of people associate grief with death, but you can still lose something. You can grieve losing a job, losing a relationship, losing a friendship. So it's not always when someone dies. So that's grief. And trauma is when we experience something that our mind and body are impacted so heavily that we don't know what to do with it. And so a traumatic event can be, like people think, a car accident, assault, sexual abuse. But trauma can also be verbal abuse, right? It's not necessarily something physically that happens to you. So a traumatic event, and a lot of times my clients are like, well, this was traumatic, but my mom says just get over it. Like she's been through worse. And I'm like, well, you can't quantify what a traumatic event will feel like to you because it is your own lived experience. And so I would classify them, but they can go hand in hand because you can lose a friendship, but it was so traumatic to you. So now you're experiencing that trauma of a loss and the grief together. So they go hand in hand a lot of times.
So how do you identify trauma? Like, how do you identify? Because I see it a lot on Instagram. Like, oh, I'm triggered because it was a traumatic experience. I never want to like downplay anybody's experience. So how do you
Right.
identify whether something was traumatic or not to you?
Right. So there are some symptoms that we learn. For example, if we're in that car accident, you're reliving the experience, and it evokes a negative emotion. So your emotions, right? You're crying, you're sad, you're anxious. A lot of times, trauma doesn't always show up that way for a lot of Black people because we are conditioned to keep moving. So, for example, it might show up, excuse me, where we throw ourselves into work, right? We're workaholics, we're perfectionists. And so we just learn how to live with the trauma. It also could show up in like depression or anxiety. It could show up in PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome. So it can show up in different ways. But I said that spectrum because when you think of trauma, you think of someone sad, someone depressed. But we don't always experience trauma that way. We can be throwing ourselves into work. We can be excelling in our lives. Everything on the outside could look great, but on the inside, we're suffering in silence. So it's a wide spectrum of what trauma looks like.
I'm triggered.
Oh, I hope not.
I did get a little emotional though when you spoke about the experiencing the trauma and the grief all at once.
Yeah.
I feel like throughout my journey, I've experienced the grief and the trauma, and there was a point in my life where I didn't know I was experiencing the grief and trauma. Like you said, we're conditioned to keep moving,
Right.
keep going, and I'm like, all I know is keep going.
Right.
And it got to a point because I love rap music.
So do I.
And who's your favorite rapper?
Right now, I would say Drake, but I love Kendrick Lamar.
Okay. Give me your top five, just off the dome.
Ooh, top 5.
Dead or alive?
I love Tupac, Kendrick Lamar, Drake, J. Cole, and Eminem.
I like her. I can go with that. I can go with
Oh, if I had a bonus, I would say Jay-Z.
that. I don't agree with Jay-Z being the bonus.
Okay.
Top five for me.
Okay.
Cole, Wayne, Pac. Ooh. That's all I got right now.
Okay.
Cole, Wayne, and Pac.
I can't disagree with that. I love some Lil Wayne too.
That's my guy right there.
Yeah.
That's my guy. Okay, back to grief and trauma. I had to because I love hip hop.
Yeah.
But I would turn to rap music to deal with the grief and the trauma because it's like rap is like keep going, keep pushing,
Yes.
hustle hard.
Yes. Yes.
And there got to a point where I was like, this is not working.
Mm.
It was not working for me, and that's when I began to realize, like, I turned to hip hop to deal with grief and trauma because I had no idea.
Right.
I didn't even realize I was in survival mode.
Mm.
Just living and just going and going, and I just hit this wall. I was like, I had an anxiety attack for the first time. I was depressed. I was oftentimes between angry and sad,
Right.
and didn't really know how to process those emotions. And I just turned to hip hop to keep going. So how do you, for someone who may be experiencing something like that, or not even don't even realize that they're dealing with grief and trauma at the same time, like what are some ways that they can do to, I guess, become aware of what they're experiencing, what they're dealing with? Also, in that awareness, how do they handle it? How do they
Right.
deal with it?
Right. So I would say first thing is don't minimize your emotions. A lot of times the term of you're a drama queen, you're so dramatic, you're overreacting. When people tell you those things, it's a form of gaslighting, one. But two, it's also because they might not be aware of their own emotions and how to deal with them. So don't minimize your emotions, first of all, because a lot of times we're in survival mode, right? We just have to keep going. We minimize our emotions. Like, I don't have time to cry. Suck it up, wipe it up, and keep pushing, girl. Right? So it's okay. So we don't have time to deal with our emotions. So we minimize them. So one, don't minimize your emotions and check in with yourself. I teach and tell people all the time, check in with yourself. If you're feeling an emotion, stop. Why are you feeling that? If you're angry, if you're sad, if you're upset, if you're happy, right? Why are you feeling that? Because a lot of times we just go about our day and we just do not check in with ourselves. And if you're a helper, you check in with everybody else, right? Because I can check in with everybody else, but never check in with myself. And so a lot of times you just doing to stop and check in with yourself to figure out what you're feeling and why. As a first, but also the other thing is that when you experience things and you do not take the time to heal from them, they become what we call complex trauma or complex grief. They're just piled on top of each other, one after the other after the other. And I'm a grief and trauma therapist, but there was a point in my life where I could not do this work anymore. So I lost my mom in 2021 to COVID. And thank you. And so I had a lot of death during the pandemic. I had lost my grandmother, my mom, my uncle, and one of my closest friends in the world, all within a span of 3 years. And in 2021, I said, I can't do this work anymore. I can't show up as a grief and trauma therapist. And I am a huge proponent of therapy. I'm a therapist. But at that point, I was like, I can fix myself. Like, I can just do it. Like, girl, push through. And the same thing I was helping my clients with, I had fell into that same spot. And I was like, yeah, I'm depressed and I have a lot of grief piled on top of each other. And I took 2 months off from work. Being an entrepreneur, I'm blessed I was able to take 2 months off from work to really figure out, do I even want to be a therapist anymore? Do I even want to still do this work? How do I want to show up? And I'm helping people get over the grief of their own family members. And I felt like a fake and a phony because I wasn't dealing with my own grief and trauma. And so after 2 months, I decided I'm not going to do grief work anymore until I finally finish healing. And that was in 2021. And I haven't seen a client doing grief work since. And it's been almost August will be 2 years since my mom passed away. So for me, it was also like I felt like a fake and a fraud because I was helping people, but I wasn't helping myself. And once I came out of those 2 months and realized that that was the best thing for me, it was truly life-changing. I went into therapy, did my own grief and healing work, and I would say that was the best thing I could have ever done for myself, is to take that time off, but also go back to therapy. Because the reality is that grief is going to happen. Death and loss is going to happen. It's a part of life. How you deal with it, how you choose to heal from it, it leaves an imprint on you. And so for me,
I just felt that in
right?
I felt that in
Shout out to my therapist. She's amazing.
God.
But it was transformational for me. And to be able to say that, yes, I had an immense amount of loss and grief in my life in a short period of time, but you can heal from it. It doesn't have to define you. You don't have to stay stuck there. Like grief for some people, and you can't put a time on how long you grieve, right? A lot of people say, well, get over it. After the funeral, after a couple of weeks, you're supposed to get over it. How do you get over somebody that was so loving in your life, so inspirational, someone you loved? And it doesn't necessarily have to be a parent, right? For me, it was a group of people at one time, but you can lose someone that you met a few weeks ago and it can leave a huge dent in your life or loss. And so for me, doing that work for myself was transformational. So no, I don't necessarily do active grief work with my clients anymore, but I still do the work that shows up when I see clients or when I'm speaking or when I'm teaching. It still shows up in other ways, or when I'm doing a podcast, right? So I can still do this work without directly doing the work, and knowing that grief is always a journey for some people, and no matter how long it takes for you, you have to do the work. Like, you have to take the journey, because if you sit in it, it can consume you.
Come on, somebody. It can consume you.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Shout out to you, Zach. It takes courage
Yeah.
to first recognize, okay, I'm depressed.
Yes.
I'm grieving and I'm not okay. That is
Mm-hmm.
hard to admit.
It is.
Like, I am not okay.
Yes. And I am the epitome of a strong Black woman. Like, that was like what I looked up to be, because I saw all these other strong Black women in my family. But what I realized is that they were just masking. They were just pushing down their emotions. They were not, I was like, I never seen these people in my family cry before. Like, I was raised by a single parent. So to me, I was like, that was what strong looked like. And then when I reconditioned myself to say, no, it's strength in saying I'm not okay. And I was like, I'm not okay. This is going to wipe me out. Like, I need to get help. I'm a wife, I'm a mom, and I wasn't even showing up the way I could for my family. So I was like, yeah, I need help. Yeah.
Shout out to you. Like, that really takes courage. And I just want to see you loving life from right
Thank
here.
you.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a lot. And then
Yeah.
so you mentioned feeling like a fake and a phony.
Mm-hmm.
Even in that, it's like,
Yeah.
like, I don't even know what I'm trying to say or
Yeah.
act, but it's like, I think that's just dope. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Shout out to you. And thank you for being transparent
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
about your journey.
Yeah. And I'm only able to do that because of the healing work I've been doing. Like, And I say healing work because therapy was a huge proponent of that, but there are other ways as well that you can do healing work for people who, so for healing work for people, it can be an array of things. So I'm a huge proponent of your mind and body are connected. And so in that healing journey, I also went on a weight loss journey and I lost 50 pounds, right? Because thank you. Because doing the work mentally, you also have to do it physically. So physical health, and it doesn't mean you have to go and run a marathon, right? But just be active. Get into the sunlight, go for walks. If you can't afford going to a gym, go to your local park. Just get moving, because a lot of times when you're in a depression or sadness or anxiety or any other mental health issues, physical activity will help tremendously. Just getting active and moving your body. If you are interested in dancing, dance movement is also healthy for the mind, body, and soul. Yoga. There are all kinds of things that you can do that are what we would call alternative medicine, so to speak, right? So you can do acupuncture. You can do so many things. I went on a whole journey and I started doing a whole bunch of stuff. As well as working on my mental health, but doing things for my physical health. If you're creative, drawing, art, doing things like that are also a part of what you can do to heal from grief and trauma. So it doesn't always just look like therapy. It can be that and so many other things. If you're spiritual, connected to your faith is also something that you can do as well. So there are so many things you can do to heal when you're going through or have been through grief and trauma.
What inspired you to get like get up and get active physically? Like what was the moment that
Yeah.
you're like, okay, let me get up? Because
Yeah,
it's hard to pull yourself out of a dark space. Like
it
so,
is.
how did you? What inspired you to get up?
Yeah. So like I said, I have two boys, and so they're young. They're now 6 and 12. But for me, it was seeing them say, "Mommy, we want to do fun things. We want to do things," and me not have the energy to do it or not even want to. And so it was like a light bulb. I think I overheard my little ones, Daddy, Mommy doesn't want to go anywhere. She doesn't want to do anything. And it was like, wow, this was like a light bulb moment for me, because also my mom suffered from mental health issues. And so I knew what it was to have a parent who wasn't there, right? And so one of my biggest fears was always like, I want to be the best mom I can be for my kids. And so hearing them say that, I knew like I had to be the best version of myself. Like, but to the outside world, you would have never known. You would have never guessed, right? I still was working. I still was doing the things, right? And only like the inside core people who knew me saw like, that's not you, right? To everybody else, that's you, but we see you, right? And my husband was like, yeah, no. So one shout out to having like a core group of people who can like see through the BS. Like they can see that you're just putting on for, the face and the mask, but really you're not okay. Yeah, my village is amazing. I will say that hands down there. And they were like, yeah, you're not okay. And so hearing my kids say that, it was like, okay, not only do you have to mentally get yourself up, but you have to start moving. Because I didn't have energy. I didn't want to do anything. Yes, that's tied to, sadness and grief and loss and depression, but also physically, I just had no energy. And so I started just going for walks, going to the park. I did go to the gym, but I was like, yeah, that wasn't consistent. But going to the park, and my local park has like physical equipment there. So I was like, yeah, let me utilize this. So I started doing it. My husband started doing it with me. We started taking the kids to the park, and I just grew from there. And then I started doing boxing, and I just started doing other things that I enjoyed. And I just started from there. And so it's definitely been a journey. But you do not have to start running a marathon. Just get up and just do it.
What's your go-to physical activity?
Right now, so I've started jumping rope. I enjoy that. I didn't really think it would be so hard to like do it consistently. So I enjoy jumping rope, but I also enjoy boxing.
Have a trainer?
I have a trainer, so I go to a gym and I do boxing. I'm no Floyd Mayweather, but I've started boxing. And I started actually with my brother. He got me into it. And because my brother also went on a weight loss journey. So I had people with me, like cheering me on and supporting me. So it was helpful doing that together.
You need a village.
Yes, you need a
Those that are
village.
good on your own,
Yes,
you need a village.
you need a village.
You need healthy people around you, people that know you and see you
Yes.
And gonna call you out and let you know this ain't you.
Yes. Hands
You need
down.
those people, and you need to show up for your people as well.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah, it goes both ways.
yes, I love that. I'm trying not to get trying to hold my emotions.
No,
Back, 'cause
go for it.
I'm just
Listen.
thinking
Be
about
you.
the space that I was in when I was in a dark space, and
Yeah.
I remember telling my best friend, like, I am not okay.
Mhm.
Like, I remember saying those exact words to her. She was like, "You're not okay," and I live in Vegas, and the
Mhm.
majority of my family lives in Cleveland.
Okay.
So I'm just like, I am not okay. And I remember she called. She didn't tell me she was calling my mom, but she called my mom.
Oh.
Like, and I knew it was her who called my mom, but it's like from that moment, like, I don't know. I talked to my parents more, like we kind of connected a little bit more.
Mhm.
Started going to therapy, and like again, the physical because I did boxing as well. That's what
Oh,
I
yay.
love boxing. But yeah, it just kind of took me back, and it's dope to hear someone else's journey and story and see how you overcame.
Yeah.
Whew, that dark space ain't no joke.
No, it's
It
not.
ain't no joke. So what do you do? Because of course, so can we talk about the stages of grief? Because
Yes.
I'm like, I know for a fact that I felt sadness and anger all in once. I think one of the ones is regret, maybe. Is that what are the stages of grief? Maybe I'm getting that mixed up.
Yeah, so I mean, there are 5 stages of grief. Kubler-Ross: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and
You
acceptance.
said denial, anger, bargaining.
Anger and acceptance.
Okay.
Yes.
Do they go in order or?
So the beautiful thing about grief is you don't have to go in an order. I tell people all the time, grief is not linear. So you can be at one point, you can be happy, and then the next you can be sad. You can be depressed, and then you can be accepting. You can bounce between the stages. It's not a linear process. So for some people, which is when holidays come around, birthdays, anniversaries, they can be fine, and then it takes them into maybe a depression or a sad time because they're reminded of the person they lost or the thing that they don't have anymore. And so things can trigger grief. And these are just a part of the grieving process. So most people start in denial, right? That's normally where you start when you first lose the person. I'm talking in regards to like death. When you first lose the person, you're in denial, right? It's a shock. And for some people, it's not just a mental shock, it's a physical shock. Some people can go into physical shock. And then it's anger. And it's normally you're angry the person left or you're angry at someone. It's normally you can displace the anger. You can blame the doctors, the medical staff if there is something. Bargaining is, if I just get one more day with them, or, if you heal them, God, I'll do right and give my life to you, and I'll be living on a straight and narrow, right? You bargain for more time or for them to come back. And then there's depression. And so that's normal sadness for grief and loss. And then there's acceptance, right? You fully accept it that the person is no longer here, they're no longer with you, and now you're learning to live your life without this person, right? It's your new normal, is what I say to people, and how you navigate and cope with that, accepting that that person is no longer here anymore.
And it's okay to accept that they're no longer here,
Yes.
and it's okay to move forward with life.
Yes.
I think, and I'm speaking more so in the sense of grieving relationships, friendships,
Mm.
grieving
Oh, yes.
past.
Yes.
Like you have to give yourself permission to move forward, to
Yeah.
accept it, and to move forward. And grief as well, like in losing
Right.
a loved one as well. Um, because I think that's a piece that I can't speak for everybody, but I feel like that's one of the pieces that a lot of people struggle with is that acceptance.
Oh, yeah.
That it's okay
Yeah.
to live life.
They feel bad. They're like, this person is not here, or we had all these plans together to do these things together, and they're no longer here physically, right? Whether they die or whether the friendship or relationship is over, right? And they feel guilty for living and enjoying life. And one of the things, or how I reframe it, is like, I am my mom's living legacy, right? I am what she left behind me and my two brothers. And so everything I do is to make her proud, right? And to make the life that she lived worth it. You know what I mean? So her and my grandmother, I am their living legacy. They would have never imagined being an entrepreneur, or some of the things they had to work and struggle for. I am able to do these things. And so I don't look at it as, sometimes I'm like, yeah, man, they're not going to see this or they're not going to see that. But I'm able to do it, right? And on the backs of them, because they built a foundation for me to be able to live this life that I live. So I reframe it. And yes, there is sadness when things happen, but there's also, for me, happiness. And I am their living legacy, right? I am what they would have wanted me to be, and even more, right? I still have more room to grow and to be that version of myself that they knew I could be. So I don't live in regret or guilt. Like, I reshape that. And so a lot of people do, because they feel like, well, they're not here or they're not with me, so they can't do it, so I can't. Absolutely, you can, right? They would want you to live your life to the fullest and live out loud, right? Boldly, and walking your truth. So so that's how I reframe it, and I choose to live my life.
Yes. Oh my gosh. She's talking to my soul today. I don't know if she's speaking to y'all soul. She's speaking to my soul. Okay. Divine alignment.
Yes, divine alignment. Absolutely.
I heard you mention reframing and reshaping. Like, what does that look like?
So that's work, right? Because our mindset, and this is why a lot of people do mindset work, is like, it's true. And this is what I tell people: whatever you believe becomes your reality. So if you start to believe that your life is over, or your life has no meaning, or you can't live your life because you don't have this person anymore, that will become your reality, and you will start to walk into that. And so a lot of work is mindset work, is reshaping and reframing the way you think. Because the way you think will start to be, it will start to lead to how you behave, and then how you show up in the world, right? Right. So that's a little CBT there, right?
Truly, that's bad.
Yes, it is. So you have to start to do that mindset work, that mental work, and whatever that looks like, right? Whether it is you start to read different books, you start to listen to podcasts, you start to watch YouTube videos, right? You start to feed your mind things that is going to uplift and put you in a positive mindset and mood. Even music, you have to be careful to what you listen to, right? They say your ears are the gateway to the soul. Or your eyes and ears. So whatever you're putting into your body, you have to start to change that. And for me, I'm such a huge person on positive mindset. I listen to positive things in the morning. I listen to positive videos. I read positive things, because I truly believe the way your mindset it is going to dictate the way you see the world. And so for me, it's a lot of work. And so this is why I said it's a healing journey. It's work. For people who are not ready for the work, they're not going to do it. It's going to be hard. When I do trauma work, this is like the disclaimer, like, you're not going to like me at some point in this work. So let me tell you right now, you're not going to even want to show up to therapy today, right? Because I am going to put you in a place where you're going to have to get uncomfortable. And a lot of people love being in comfort. And so in order to do this healing work, you have to get to a place where you're okay with being uncomfortable. Even here at this podcast, right? At this summit, right? They're like stepping on people's toes here today. But on the other side is comfort. On the other side is healing. On the other side is beauty. But you have to get uncomfortable with being, you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Yes.
Chill. You gotta go through. You gotta go through the darkness.
Yes.
Like, you gotta
Yes.
go through the darkness. That's something that I had to tell myself. I'm like, oh, even my therapist, she said to me, I remember when I first started therapy with her. She was my third therapist, fourth therapist, because that's a journey within itself.
Yes.
Find a therapist that works for you.
It is. It is.
And at my first session, she said, Rick, I'm going to tell you, this is not easy work.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy. It's going to be hard.
Yeah.
But you can do it. And you will get through it if you do the work. That's
Yes.
the key for me. If you do the work.
Do the
A
work.
lot of times people say, oh, therapy didn't work for me. Did you do the work?
Exactly.
Like, did you do the work in therapy? And did you do the work
Outside.
of therapy?
Yes.
Because if you're not showing up in therapy, if you're not being transparent, if you're not being vulnerable with your therapist, it's
Right.
You're being very surface level with your therapist.
Yes.
It's not going to work.
It's not.
And luckily for me, I'm like, I've been in my being transparent. Like, I don't want to talk to people outside of therapy about certain things.
Right.
But in therapy, like, I let it all out. Like,
Yes.
and then she assigns me homework. Like,
Absolutely.
and I do the homework.
That's the
You
work.
gotta do the work.
Yes.
Like, you gotta, and when I say the shit is uncomfortable, like, I've had so many uncomfortable moments. And I'm sure you have too.
Yeah.
On your journey.
Absolutely.
But y'all, you gotta go through. Like, that's something that I can remind myself. You have to go through.
Yes.
And I'm like, I deserve to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Absolutely.
You deserve to see the light.
Yes.
I'm sure you're grateful that you
Yes.
pushed through. And you deserve to see the light at the end
Yes,
of the
you
tunnel.
do. Do the work.
Yes. Move your ass, okay?
Get up.
Get your ass up and get to it. But that's so important, and I'm just grateful right now, y'all. Like,
Me too.
My heart is full, and you've been speaking to my soul.
Yes. Yes.
So I can tell you're a great therapist.
Yes.
Get back into, or do you plan on going back?
I don't know, actually. Right now, I'm not seeing clients because I am shifting and growing in my entrepreneurship journey. And so I plan to eventually go back, but I don't know when, though. And that was also like an existential crisis. Like, I'm a therapist, but I'm not a therapist. And I'm like, you're still a therapist.
Okay, so pause. Real quick. I want to talk about that because it's like you're still licensed.
Yes, I'm still licensed. Yes.
You still identify as a therapist.
Yes.
But you no longer practice. So
Correct.
one of the things I wanted to touch on is because I have a video talking about grieving an old you. That's something that if I'm honest, that's something that I'm still wrestling with.
Right.
It's like grieving that old me.
Right.
And how do you, for anybody, because change is hard.
Very hard.
Like, change is hard. And it's like, it's not necessarily you becoming like a completely different person.
Yeah.
There's still parts of you that are still, that's just ingrained in you.
Right.
But like, just stepping into that new, for me, is stepping into being a confident man. Being a confident man, being a bold man, using my voice, because I don't like to speak or hear myself talk, but I feel like this is something that I'm taught to. So it's like, how do you, and you no longer seeing clients right now, but you see a therapist, and you said you wrestle with that. So
Right.
how do you, in grieving something that's not like death per se, the death
Right.
of a loved one per se, like how do you handle that type of thing?
The loss of, for example, the old you. So for me, going through that process, it was all healing, right? Because out of that came, not seeing clients. I lost a best friend. I gained friends, lost friends. So a whole bunch of stuff happened, right? I left my 9-to-5, became a full-time entrepreneur. So there were a lot of changes at once. And I was not okay with change. I wrestled and fought tooth and nail, right, for these changes. I was like, no, God, I don't know what you're doing, but I don't like it. And for me, it was like, eventually, I was like, you're not going to win this battle, sis. Like, let go. Let it go. I am a perfectionist, a recovering perfectionist, and I have to be in control. Listen. We here, right?
All the way.
We here. And I had to eventually just like relent and let go, because I was just like, the more I fight, the worse this is going to get, right? So I had to not only shed physical weight, but I had to shed relationships, friendships. I had to close doors and let new doors open. And it is not easy. It is very uncomfortable and scary, because we don't know what's on the other side of comfort, right? It's the unknown. And so a lot of people don't even want to open that door because we don't know what's on the other side. But I want to encourage you to take a leap of faith, to give it a try. Right? Because my journey was very uncomfortable, but the version I am of myself today, I am so happy I decided to take that leap. Like I walk more in my truth and confidence and how I show up in the world and walking in my gifts and talents and not hiding and dimming my light, because I used to do that. I used to, I'll be in the background and I'm like, no, I have a voice, right? I have something to say. Listen, I am here with you. So I want to encourage you, because the other thing I learned is you don't know who's attached to the gifts and talents that you have, right? The world, someone out there needs what you have. And as long as you keep it locked up inside, they're never going to see it or experience it. So I would say you have to take a leap of faith.
I received that. I'm like kind of right now. Just receiving it. Like,
yes.
real quick.
Listen.
Oh my God.
Sometimes we need to be snatched all the way up, okay?
And just snatched.
All day, okay?
Oh my God. Do y'all feel that? I hope y'all feel
yes.
that.
I feel it.
Honey, over here,
I feel it.
like,
I feel it.
okay. All right.
I feel it. I feel it.
I don't even have anything else to say. My God.
This was a surprise.
Really, I'm grateful though. Like this
Mhm.
I don't know what I was expecting for
Yeah.
this interview, but
Me either.
I knew I needed to connect with you, and I wanted to hear more from you.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. I didn't know what to expect either, right? We just met yesterday, y'all, right? Yesterday. And we were like, yeah, I'll do it. Yes, absolutely, right? Old me would have been like, I don't know her. She doesn't know me. What is going to happen?
And old me wouldn't have asked.
Right.
When I say, I'm just like, do I want to do an interview on the fly? I don't have no questions prepared. Like,
Nothing.
I still don't have a format. Like,
Right. This was like free flowing. No questions. We didn't prepare. She told me the premise of her podcast and I just showed up, right?
I'm over here using some of the things that I've learned from Shane.
Yeah.
The art of the interview. He just
Yes.
said that like 2 hours ago.
He did, and it was
Like,
fire.
the art of the interview.
Yes.
And I'm like remembering some of the things he said. Okay, do this.
Uh-huh.
But it's not like rehearsed.
No, this is not rehearsed.
Not rehearsed at all.
No.
So I'm just like, okay, I'm doing this, but you mentioned faith.
Yeah.
Take a leap of faith. Like, this in itself was a leap of faith. And
Yeah.
you all are witnessing a leap of faith. So
Mhm.
if there's anybody out there or
Yeah.
listening or watching and you're afraid to take the leap of faith, whatever
Yes.
that it might be, maybe therapy,
Yes.
maybe going through that process of dealing with your grief and trauma, maybe reaching out to someone. I don't know what your leap of faith is, but we encouraging you to take that leap.
Take that leap and jump.
Last thing before we go, why do you think black people don't go to therapy?
Woo! I can get on a soapbox about why black people don't go to therapy.
Therapy is has helped me. It has helped you.
Yes.
And the two women that you see right now and are listening to right now is a result of us going through therapy and doing the work.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
why is it?
We are,
Aside from it not being affordable.
yes, outside of that, we are conditioned that there is something bad or something wrong with you if you go to therapy. We are conditioned as a people to survive and to make it happen, figure it out on your own. We are conditioned that whatever happens in the house stays in the house, right? These things that we have heard. So speaking up and saying that you need help is such a negative connotation on it for black people. And black people feel like they're going to be labeled crazy or there's something wrong with them. They're defected. And the reality is I tell people you can go to therapy when things are good. You don't have to just go to therapy when things are bad, right? When you're depressed or sad or anxious. You can go to therapy for maintenance and tune-ups, right? Or regular life stressors that happen, right? Or you need help navigating through life or relationships. So it's not all when you're depressed or something severe is happening in your life. And so for black people, this huge stigma we have on mental health is crippling us because we are afraid or we don't want to speak up or we feel like something's wrong with us. And I tell a lot of times, right, when you go to a physical doctor, when your arm is broke, you go to the doctor, right? So if something's not right or you're not feeling yourself or you need help mentally, we are the form of doctors, right? We are the form of helping you mentally. And so I always tell people, when you go to the gynecologist, you don't always tell people. You don't have to tell people you're going to therapy if you're not comfortable to share that yet. That is a private thing that you can do. We are bound by confidentiality. We can't share your business in the streets. So you can literally go to a therapist and tell no one, right? If you're not ready. The other thing is that there is a lack of representation, right? We're growing, but it's not enough of us Black therapists out there to service the need of our own people. So we are growing, but there's still a need. But the biggest hurdle is stigma, right? They don't want to be viewed or seen in a negative light or negative way. But the reality is that what are you hurting? How much are you hurting by not speaking up and getting therapy, right? I tell people all the time, well, was it working before you started therapy? No. Well, give therapy a try because you can't figure it out on your own, right? And there's nothing wrong with asking for help. That's also a weakness or it's also seen as a weakness in the Black community. If you ask for help, you're weak. If you cry, you're weak. If you show emotion, you're weak. And that is a huge myth. There's strength in showing emotion. There's strength in crying. Listen, we watched the Burger King commercial on bullying, and I was in tears in there at the summit. It was so moving, and I was in tears. Now, the old me, I would have been like, girl, what are you crying for? Suck it up. It's just a commercial. But now I just allow my emotions to flow because there's strength in allowing yourself to show emotion. And so I encourage you, if you are a Black person listening to this podcast or watching this podcast, don't be afraid to go to therapy. It is so helpful when you find the right therapist to connect with and do that work together. It is so freeing on the other side of you not being bound by your trauma and grief or whatever else that has you bound. There's a freedom in knowing that you're getting help, right? It is so freeing on the other side of doing the work. And it is hard, like we said, but on the other side is freedom. It's healing. It's a new version of yourself. There's peace, there's happiness, there's joy. Like I can go on and on and on and on about the benefits of therapy, especially for us as Black people. We need to reach out for help.
Real bad. Really, honestly, and truly.
Yes.
Okay?
Real bad. Go to therapy.
If there is something wrong with you, I'm okay with it. There is something wrong with me. Listen, I just checked my calendar this morning to see when my next therapy session is. So I thought it was when I get back to Vegas. It's the following week. Dang.
That's what mine is in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm like, dang, I need it now. 'Cause these emotions that I'm experiencing right now.
Yes.
Therapy is the cheat code. Y'all.
It is. It's so helpful. Go to therapy. And there are some resources out there. If you're like, I can't afford it, I don't have insurance. There are resources out there. Taraji P. Henson has a foundation. It's called the Benson Foundation, where she offers free therapy services where you can connect to therapists. There's the Loveland Foundation that also gives out vouchers for free therapy. There are resources out there. Those are the two that come to mind, but there are some out there if you're like, I want it, I need it, but I don't have the resources to do it. Yeah. Yeah, so start there, Black people, but go to therapy.
Yes.
It'll change your life.
Listen, it's a game changer.
Yes.
It's a game changer. We are proof. We are a living proof.
Yes.
Examples of what therapy can do for your life. It'll change your life. So
Yes.
if you are in survival mode or in a funk or just not feeling life right now, it's time.
Yes.
This is divine alignment. You hearing this podcast?
Yes.
This is divine alignment.
It is.
And it's an act of self-love.
It is.
Picking yourself up and going to therapy is an act of self-love. Picking
Yes.
yourself up in general and being willing to do the work and grow and change and heal, like that's an act of self-love.
It
We're all
is.
about the self-love over here.
Yes, self-love and self-care.
We're
Yes.
all about the self-love over here.
Yes.
That's one of the ways you're gonna go from that survival mode to thriving in life.
Absolutely.
Everybody deserves to thrive in life. Everybody deserves to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And everybody deserves to know how good life can get. Like,
Absolutely.
you
Yes.
deserve to know how good life can get.
Yes, you do. You
You
do.
gotta practice subconscious acts of self-love.
Absolutely.
All right, y'all. So before we close out, let the people know how they can find you.
Yes.
Media
Mhm.
and all that jazz.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram, Altheresa Clark, LCSW. So ALTHERESA Clark, CLARK. You can find me on Facebook, Altheresa Clark. My website is www.alteresaclarklcsw.com. And you can follow my group practice, where it is a bunch of dope Black and brown therapists where we get together in our group practice and serve our community. My company is called Inspire, the number 4 Purpose. And you can follow us on all social media platforms. Inspire for Purpose.
Go follow her.
Yes. Yes.
She got the whole setup.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Group there.
Yes. We are here to serve.
I love it. I'm so here for it. And
Yes.
I'm so grateful that I needed somewhere to sit yesterday.
And I'm glad you asked too.
She literally had the only spot open. But
Yeah.
again, I think it was just divine alignment.
Right.
Divine alignment.
Absolutely.
But thank you so much.
No, thank you.
For being open, for being real, and for being willing to meet with me. You know,
Yes,
she didn't
right?
know me yesterday. But it's okay. She lives here. I'm coming back to Miami because I love this city. Okay.
Yes.
I love Miami, and I'm coming back. This is about to be my second or third home.
Yes. Come on back.
Yes, I'm coming back. And we'll definitely have to connect again.
Yeah, absolutely.
But thank you all for tuning in. If you have not done so already, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast, and like it with your girl. Because what we doing? We're becoming our own it girl.
Yes.
We're going to higher heights through conscious acts of self-love. We're going from surviving to thriving, baby.
Yes.
Acts of self-love.
I love it.
So subscribe. Make sure you follow Altheresa on all of her platforms.
Mm-hmm.
And until next time, send you all love and light.
Love and light.
Out.